So recently, Venerable Chinny gave a very nice BBC on training at the Abbey and how none of us like to be told what to do, right? None of us. Anybody like to be told what to do? And especially as we're getting closer to the start of EML, Exploring Monastic Life, we've all voluntarily come to the Abbey, haven't we, to be trained. And we can find ourselves reacting when people ask us to do something or tell us to do something. For instance, people ask us to clean a bathroom or vacuum a hall that already looks perfectly clean. Have you found that irritating? People tell us where to sit for lunch and what dish rota we need to show up for, and even how to wash the dishes. And people tell us how to set up for teachings one week, and then the next week they tell us a different way to set up for teachings. The next week they tell us a third way to set up for teachings. And they ask us to show up a few minutes early for teachings and practice, and yet it seems like the older monastics are the ones that show up late. So some of these things can grate on us a little bit. And although we willingly come to the Abbey and willingly request training, we often find ourselves reacting or recoiling or rebelling or even getting angry when people give us advice or people admonish us or correct us or even just give us a disapproving look. So our reactions happen for a variety of reasons, and one of the underlying reasons, I think, is because we all value autonomy. And especially in this culture, American culture, but I think in all cultures, we value autonomy. We have a very strong need for autonomy. I remember clearly some of the thoughts I had when I first came to the Abbey. I was working on a project across the hall, across the driveway, the forest over there. I was doing a lot of limbing and lopping and taking down small trees. And I did this for hours each week. And I would find myself thinking, I left a study program to come to the Abbey to cut down trees. And this was a challenge. I had to really work with my mind. And it took quite a while. But over the years, I've come to appreciate what an incredibly conducive environment this is to develop a very balanced, well-rounded, happy monastic lifestyle and mind. So autonomy is a basic human need that we all have, one of our strongest human needs, because we all think that we have control over our actions, and we want to feel like we are independent from external control. And this ties into one of the basic Buddhist tenets that we work with here, one of the basic tenets of the Buddhist worldview, which is that it's our mind that creates our happiness, and our happiness doesn't depend on anything external. Rather, it depends on our mind. Any happiness we feel comes from our mind. So even the smallest pleasure that we might experience, something from a cool breeze on a hot day like today, all the way up to the happiness or the pleasure, the fulfillment that we feel from full awakening. A person may feel from full awakening. I don't have that experience. All of this comes from our mind and from the actions motivated by positive states of mind. And likewise, every bit of suffering that we experience comes from our own mind, our own non-virtuous states of mind and the actions that we do. This is so easy to say, it rolls right off my lips. But in the heat of the moment, this is hard to remember. So this is a big part of our practice, to continue familiarizing ourselves with these tenets, these basic tenets of the Buddhist worldview, so that we not only know them intellectually, but we embody them, we carry them with us, so that in the heat of the moment, they're there for us, we remember them. This is like Karma 101. So we like to think that we're in control of our lives, and to some degree, we are, for sure. We can choose when to get up and what to wear and how to make our tea in the morning and what to eat for breakfast. We can choose to visit the Abbey for a few days or a few weeks, a few months. Some of us have chosen to live here for a lifetime. But can we choose our thoughts each moment of the day? Can we choose our emotions? Can we choose our reactions and when they arise and how they arise? Probably we don't have that level of control. Can we choose our rebirth? Now that's a whole new level of autonomy, isn't it? So yes, we have the potential to choose these things. We have the potential to control these things, but not right now. I mean, we don't have the experience of it right now, most of us, not without a lot of work. So when we were in the middle of the Manjushri retreat, there was a verse that really stood out to me. It hit me like a ton of bricks, because we all value autonomy. But Chandrakirti says, like a bucket and a well, migrators have no autonomy. Wait a minute. I don't like that. I want to feel like I do have autonomy. I value autonomy. It's one of my basic needs. But Chandrakirti is saying, I have no autonomy. He goes on to say, first with the thought I, they cling to a self. Well, there's a clue. Self-grasping ignorance. And then with the thought mine, they become attached to things. I bow to compassion that cares for migrators. So that's a hard pill to swallow. So all of us are currently controlled by attachment, anger, ignorance, and other afflictions to varying degrees. And that's why, in reality, we have no autonomy. Even though the sun is shining and our bellies are full or soon to be full, things are pretty good for us, still, when we check, we have no autonomy. And this is the meaning of samsara, that our bodies and minds are controlled by karma and afflictions. This is what we're up against. So as long as we're controlled by the afflictions, we have no real autonomy. So we mustn't be fooled just because things are going well for us. Even in the best of times, we're still experiencing birth, aging, sickness, death, not getting what we want, getting what we don't want, etc. We still are subject to this pervasive conditioning, dukkha of conditioning, the fact that we are controlled by something outside of ourselves. So this is the question that I try to ask myself regularly. Why is it that I react and recoil when a sentient being tells me what to do, but I have all the tolerance in the world for my own afflictions telling me what to do? Seems like a little bit of a contradiction, doesn't it? So Buddhist practice, I think we can say, is about gaining more autonomy and control over our thoughts and actions. This is the real autonomy we're after, not just the superficial autonomy of not having someone telling us what to do. And so that's good to keep in mind, that when someone is telling us what to do, to remember, wait a minute, it's my reaction. That's where I can begin to develop some real autonomy in my own experience. I can't control external things. I can't control what people are going to ask me to do or tell me what to do. But I can begin to work with my reaction, developing more personal autonomy. So here at the Abbey, and I think, in a Buddhist setting, we study, first of all, to understand our mind and how it works. Our mind is impermanent, it's constantly changing. So, and therefore we can change our mind by changing what we focus on. What a concept. It sounds so simple. And yet this is revolutionary when we find ourselves feeling unhappy and forgetting that the suffering is coming from our own mind, and that we have a choice in every moment to change what we're focusing on. We, like storm clouds obscuring the sky, afflictions temporarily obscure our mind, but they never enter into the very nature of our mind. They never change the pure nature of our mind. We study to understand our Buddha nature, the incredible potential that each and every sentient being has to completely purify and develop our mind, much like Buddhas have done. And we make effort to maintain mindfulness and introspective awareness of what our mind is doing all day long. That's a full practice just in itself. We try to maintain awareness of our precepts and our values and our intentions, our motivations that we set in the morning and throughout the day. And we try to stay mindful of the incredible plethora of teachings that we get here at the Abbey, Lam Rim and philosophy and mind training techniques. We get a lot of teachings, so how to stay mindful of all those teachings. We work to understand the disadvantages of all the afflictions. That in itself is a bulk of our practice and a very good antidote. And then we also work to apply various antidotes to the afflictions as needed. So luckily, because of the very nature of our mind, we are not hopelessly stuck in samsara. We're not hopelessly stuck with a lack of autonomy. We're not hopelessly stuck with constant dissatisfaction and suffering. Our minds are dependent, they lack inherent existence, and that means the afflictions like attachment, anger, and ignorance can be lessened slowly, slowly. It's like a speeding train, so we have to put on the brakes slowly. And then eventually they can be completely eliminated. Imagine that. So those of us who are Buddhist should never be content with our practice. Instead, we constantly try to familiarize ourselves with all these various Lam-Rim topics and mind training techniques and philosophical teachings. Again, not just so that we can spout them back in an intellectual manner, but so that day by day our integration of these teachings grow, so that we carry these things with us in all of our different interactions. And not just the easy topics, but even the difficult topics. I was so grateful that we had the Manjushri retreat and the opportunity to think more about emptiness. There's so many things to think about, actually, on a day-to-day basis, and all of them are important. In fact, the Lam-Rim says you must keep this in your mind, and there's like, what, 200 of them or something. But the more we can familiarize with them, the easier they come to mind, the more we have a chance of hanging on to them. And no matter what we experience, no matter what harm we experience, whether it was intended or unintentional, whether it was real or just perceived from our side, we can use thought transformation to make it part of our practice, to make it beneficial to our development of our mind. So even if someone is angry with us, even if someone is raging in our face, if we have loving kindness and compassion in our heart, and can maintain that in the face of their dissatisfaction, then we can look at them very warmly. We can hold our seat. We can maintain our ethical posture and not react. When we learn that for ourselves, it sounds simple, but when you learn that for yourself in your own practice, it becomes revolutionary. This is a little taste of autonomy when we can do this. So in this way, we come to trust that happiness and suffering do come from our own mind, not from anything external. And this requires a heck of a lot of work because we are so thoroughly conditioned to think if I only had X, Y, and Z, then I'd be happy. But actually, having those things doesn't guarantee happiness, does it? We can have all the pizza in the world, all the chocolate cake in the world, and still we can be unhappy. So we have to check this out again and again, taste it for ourselves, integrate it for ourselves. And in this way, we prove to ourselves that what the Buddha said is actually true. So you may not have heard anything really new or startling today in this talk, but if we begin to practice these things, sincerely practice them in every moment, we will see immediate and long-term benefits. At least I've had a tiny bit of experience in that, and I'm going to keep going.